Good morning. It's Friday, which, I mean, hey, we made it through another week, and that's a blessing. My prayers and thoughts are still with the people in California. I can't forget about them. We will enjoy a great weekend, and some of the parents and loved ones of the people that died this week, they won't have the same luxury that we have. So what I thought about doing this morning was I'm going to read a little bit out of my book, F Cancer. It's available on Amazon. And what are the unique things about dealing with cancer, unlike some other things in life or illnesses? It attacks all parts of us being human. It attacks our physical side. It attacks our spiritual side. And it also attacks our emotional side. So we're getting hit from all angles, and we try our best to maintain some type of equilibrium, through it all. We try to stay balanced, and there will be times when it will be difficult, very, very difficult, to keep it balanced. So it's going to get off. The only question is how we get it back on balance, and how long do we wait before we start doing some things to get that balance back where it should be. But it's going to be always teetering. I mean, it will never be perfect. We're not perfect. We're human beings. But this morning, I'm going to read a little bit out of the book. I'm going to read from page 3. My thoughts at times, I must admit, can be morbid, and some would argue even pessimistic. I can assure you that those thoughts are housed with a great amount of faith and hope. I always remain a realist. It's very similar to that of John McCain. Senator McCain didn't give up his fight with cancer when he elected to stop treatment. He knew it was his time to exit off the highway of life. No one can tell me that his will had been broken. If his will to live couldn't be broken in Vietnam, nothing else in life had a chance. He came to a place of acceptance that it was his time. We will all have to take that exit while traveling through life. It's inevitable, and it's ahead of us all. Senator McCain understood that all that could have been done to extend his life was done. He was a realist and wasn't afraid of his transition. Realism and pessimism are two different things. Part of my answer to cancer is dealing with the realities of this disease as honestly as possible. There is no good reason to sugarcoat our reality. Most of us don't want pity. We hate to hear it's going to be okay. We know that there's a possibility that it may not turn out the way we want. We just want the truth. How we receive that truth and process that truth is what's hard. My intention in my words is to help you grow with acceptance and to give you some tips that I use to process the truth healthily and happily, to survive and live with a heart full of love through your travels with cancer. Despite what people say about John McCain, whether or not he was a hero, listen, and this is just my opinion, for someone to endure all the torture that he endured and still elected not to leave his soldiers, his comrades, his friends behind when he had a chance to leave, it's remarkable to me. And, I pray that I would have done the same thing that he did. But to be honest, I don't know. I really, really don't know. I don't know if I could have handled that kind of torture and still elected to stay there. So, what I take away from that and why I put John McCain in the book was because it showed the ability to, have the will to keep going on, to have the faith that it will be okay, and still be able to remain some type of hope, because he had to have had all three of those ingredients to make it. And it's very similar to that of people dealing with cancer. You have to have a will to live. And for most of the times, you have to have some type of faith. Now, what I'm going to talk about this morning is the will and the faith. The hope we'll cover at a later date. See, so our faith will at times dwindle. We're humans. As much as everything I have been through in life, which has been a lot, I can't maintain some type of perfection when it comes to faith. And real quick, because a lot of people here that are listening to this video don't know my past and don't know all the things that God and I have been through in my life. Real briefly, I went through some male sexual abuse as a child. I grew up with a father that was just, he was very difficult and very strict and very harsh with his words. Biracial, growing up in the 60s. I was shot across the side of the head when I was a young boy. I was electrocuted. Just been through so much. So at the age of 20, I was a drug addict living on the streets of Miami, homeless. And I went from that to getting a bachelor's degree and getting a law degree. I didn't do it all by myself, trust me. Because at the beginning of that journey, my faith in a God was zero. Because I could never understand how God would let me be abused as a child. I was innocent. I didn't do anything to anybody. It wasn't sins that I had committed and somehow God was paying me back for. That wasn't the case. God just let that happen. And so my belief in God when I started out that journey from underneath that bridge in Miami, I just didn't have faith in it. And as time passed, my faith grew. I started understanding God. And that's why in yesterday's video, I was talking about things that happen and why God would allow things to happen. And we cannot understand them all at that time. But when we give ourselves an ability to let some time pass, then we'll start understanding, why certain things just happen the way they happen. And not to deviate from what I'm talking about today, I just need to give you that background for the people that don't know what I have been through in life. So I started out with this cancer thing with a pretty good foundation with God. God and I, we had a relationship. We still do. You shouldn't use the word had. I still do believe. Don't get me wrong. But we have a relationship. We have a good working relationship, and it's really honest. And some other video, I'll talk about how me and God, we do our thing. And and there's even times when I love God. Don't get me wrong. But there's some days where I have to tell him, listen, I don't fool with you today. I'm going to obey, but today, relax. We're done for the day. But that's a whole nother video. So, you have to have a will to live. And there will be times when our faith will dwindle. But as long as that will to live is there, the faith will come back around. It really will. So you can have little faith as long as you have a will. But you cannot exist, or you cannot fight through this thing if the will to live isn't there. Faith alone will not carry you if the will to live isn't there. So when John McCain elected to stop treatment, I understand. And I understood at that time what he was doing. He had the will to live. He just understood that it was his time. And for us dealing with cancer, we want to be realists about this thing. We understand what we were fighting. I was diagnosed with cholangiocarcinoma, bile duct cancer. There really isn't a treatment for it. There's not a set protocol for it. And they gave me 6 to 8 months to live. And I don't want to get too much into the book and give too much of it away. But so I was given 6 to 8 months to live. I had a will to live. And I had a faith in God. But I was also a realist. And I also understood that what God's will for me will be done. There's just no way around that. And I battled sometime with what God's will for me was. And I understood also too that his will could be me dying. I don't know what lessons maybe he had in store for my kids and letting them grow up for the rest of their life without a father. Because those were thoughts I would have in my mind also. And those were the biggest things that used to weigh me down and kind of take away my some of my faith and some of my hope was, how my kids are going to make it. How my kids going to make it without me. But I knew that if that's what God's will for me was, and if that's what God's will for my kids, then that's just what God's will was. So I had to battle that. But the thought, and why I wrote in the book, the thought about death, if you're a cancer patient, you're gonna think about it. It's just natural, and it doesn't mean that you're a pessimist, because it's real. I mean, people die of cancer every day. So it's okay to think about that. As long as the thoughts don't get so far off center that it's a drag on your faith. And it's a drag on your hopes. And like I say, those will be attacked. But as long as you can stay true to your will to live, it'll come back in balance. You have to just give it a little time, and keep moving forward. But it will come back. There's no doubt about that. If you don't lose your will to live. So John McCain didn't lose his will to live. There's nobody that can tell me that this man that went through all this stuff in Vietnam lost his will. There is no doubt in my mind. He understood where he was at. He was comfortable with what he had done in life. He knew that he was spiritually fit. And he knew that his transition would be okay. He got comfortable with all that he had done in life. And in some of the other videos, I'll talk about, getting fit or, and reviewing your life and being able to lay in that bed the last 2 minutes of your life with some peace and some comfort. That's another video. But today, it was just about your will to live. You have to keep going forward. Do not beat yourself up if you start questioning your faith in God. We are human beings. We are not required to have perfect faith. It's just not going to happen. It's just not. And people telling you all the time, it's going to be okay, and pray to God for this, and you should pray. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, we cancer patients, we don't want to express our thoughts about death to others because people then will say, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. Don't even put it out in the air. Or, just pray. You need to pray more. And that's a whole other video also too. It's talking about what you put out in the air. But for this video, it's about understanding that those thoughts are natural thoughts. You're going to have them. Your faith will be tested. And I shouldn't even use the word tested because we're human beings. Your faith will dwindle at times. And it's okay. Because during those times, God will send us messages if we're clear-eyed and help us kind of get that balance back. But you can't lose your will to live. You just can't. So my message today is accept that you are human. Accept the fact that your faith will be affected. Accept the fact that your hope will be affected. And if you are concrete with your will to live, then you can survive it. But you cannot lose your will to live. Whatever it requires, whatever you want to live for, that has to be the most important thing. It just has to be. So, you keep the fight up. Keep your will to live there. During your times when your faith is affected, you just hang in there. It will come around and it will be okay. And God knows that you are human. God gave you all these human frailties. It's just who we are. And no matter who you are, even with someone like me who had a fantastic relationship with God, for someone like me who God has shown me over and over and over again that he loves me. And he's performed miracles in my life before the cancer. And I still would have doubts of faith. It's just natural. That's just who we are. But anyway, I probably went way too long, but you know me. Anyway, I hope all y'all have a good day. God bless.